Dear friends, may you all be in the best of health and spirits. I am speaking to you today from my forest retreat, and I wanted to bring to you the topic that follows some of the recent conversations we've had about how close God is to us, to our very selves, and also reminding us that nevertheless, one is expected to continue striving towards the divine presence. And one of the lines that I've always enjoyed from the Masnavi, where he says, Dar gudos in jumlatan ra dar basar, dar nazar rao, dar nazar rao, dar nazar. He says, dissolve all of your body. Dar gudos in jumlatan ra. In vision. Go with seeing, go with seeing what is true, in other words. And following that, and prior to that, he's talking about non-being. Rumi is. This is the Masnavi's book 6. And this particular line that I'll start to read to you is in book 6, and the line will be starting at 1471. So he says there, Chun shunidi sharhebare nisti kush daim tobar in bar isti. So here he's saying, since you've heard of the explanation regarding the ocean of non-being, exert yourself, try, always, for this, so that you will be able to stand, as he says in this line, to rhyme with the earlier line. So, kush dayam, try always, forever. Tobar in bar isti, till you are standing and alert in that situation. In the next line, he says, Shunke asli korgo he on nistist, ke hala wa bi nishon ast wa tahi. So he says, since the origin of the workshop of that non-being, which is empty, entirely empty, and without a sign, and fully empty. Next line. Lajeram ustade ustadane samad gargahesh nisiti wala buvat. So he says, necessarily the master of all of those who are masters of non-being forever, Kargahish nisiti walobuvat. So that master, which is God, of course, he's saying his workshop is non-being, and la, meaning labuvad. It doesn't exist, but also we can note here that la, which Rumi is using throughout the Masnavi, represents the idea of no or not. So the next line, he says, Har kujo inisti absuntarast korehak wa korgohesh on sarast. Anywhere that this non-being is more diffused, is greater, the work of God. The work of God is in this workshop in that direction of non-being, of course. So the reason I bring that into this discussion is because coming back now to this statement, Dar gudos in jumlatan ro dar basar, dar nazar ro dar nazar ro dar nazar. Melt dar gudos, kind of like a candle melting, but dar gudos, so melt, dissipate this body, this physical body, which, as important as it is to us in this life, is nevertheless hiding from us that which is the most beautiful, splendid thing to find. And that's why he says, drown, dissolve your body, so that you will have this seeing. Go with that. See things, see these things, these spiritual things within yourself. So now, following that line and coming to a later passage here in the Masnavi, he says, In qadar guftim baki fekr kon. Fekr agar jomed buvad rao zikr kon. So he says, that much we have said to you, meaning explained to you. The rest is in your ability to properly think about these things. So he says, if you are having trouble to think profoundly about such things, then go and start with the zikr. The zikr, of course, which we generally get together in our gatherings. And in this case, it's usually with a silent zikr so that one can perceive within oneself what Rumi is talking about here. Zikr arad fekr ra dar ihtizaz. Zikr ra khurshid in absurda saz. So he says, the zikr will bring the thought process into motion, meaning that which was stagnant and unperceived by people will come into motion in actuality as the person feels the effusion from the divine helping one to understand. So he says the zikr is the son of this frozen one. The frozen, it will melt that which is frozen, which was the thought process, and it will bring it into lively perception. Zonke tarke kor chun nozi buvad nos kai dar hurde John Bozi buvad. So he says that's because also any disdain of real effort is inappropriate. And he says, so disdain, how can disdain have any correlation or any connection to giving up oneself to God, huh? John Bozi. Next line he says, Nakol andish nad rad aihulam amro wanahiro mi bin mudam. So he says regarding part of the effort is part of the spiritual practices and religious devotions that one makes. So he says, neither accept this thought of yours, nor reject it, O servant of God. The requisites of the faith, which is the commands and the negation, those things which are commanded and those with which we turn away from, okay? Always keep them in front of you, meaning always, mi binid mudam, always take them into consideration and don't forget them. Emphasizing here that one does not find the spiritual blessings if one is a dilettante, we would say in English. So don't be a dilettante. Give up some time and some effort to understanding what the fundamentals are in the spiritual path. Then he says, for those who understand this and achieve this, he says, Murke jazba nagahan parad zeush chun bidi di sob sham ongo bikush. Very beautiful statement here. He says the bird of God's attraction. See, the bird of God's grace and attraction of our spirit to ourselves will suddenly fly out from its nest, meaning the nest, of course, that might have been hidden within oneself until all of these conditions are met. And this will allow for the bird to fly from this nest of God's blessedness within oneself. Chun bididi sob sham ungo bikush. So at that moment, when you see that the sun is rising, which sun? The sun within your soul, the light of God. When you see that, blow out the candle. We are candles. The flame burns and melts the candle. And that is the work of the true dervish, is to dissolve oneself, except for vision. So here he says, when that happens, when the sun is rising within the soul, blow out the candle, give it all up completely. Be one with God without needing the identity of the candle, which, yes, has suffered so much, but also still stands in the way. چشم ها چون شد گذاره نور اوست مغز را می‌بیند او در عین پوست. So he says, the eyes will become perceptive, guzara, through his light. Because again, God says, my servant does not cease approaching me with supererogatory forms of worship. I love that servant, and I become his ears, his hearing, in other words, his vision or her vision. And so this is a very beautiful connecting line. And then he says, Binad andar zara khurshide baqo. Binad andar qatra kule bahar. So he says that at that point, the person sees inside of the kernel, he sees the son of Baqa. So Baqa, of course, means one who has survived Fana. And Fana just means the dissolution of the nafs. And Baqa would be the identity and presence with God without knowing any more about one's own self on the level of nafs. And so he says, this person, binad andar katra, kulle bahar ra, that person sees within the drop all of the ocean. So that's where we end this passage in our beautiful Masnavi. And I bring this to you with the hope that you will benefit from what Rumi has to say so generously to us again and again to guide us and help us to discover our true nature. May God bless you all.